Well, great to be here in La Crosse. In last night, had a great fish fry and chicken burn. The delegates here, I'll be addressing them in a few moments, talking really about hard work and proven results, thanking them for all the hard work over the last few years, certainly in last year's re-election and in 2012 and in 2010. So many folks who are here with us today from all across the state of Wisconsin helped out in the grassroots. Through our campaign, working with the Republican Party of Wisconsin, we did a single effort, unlike most campaigns around the country where our grassroots are done with the party. We did 2.5 million voter contacts via phones, 2 million on the doors. Total voter contact was about double what we did in 2012, so a marked improvement in the 2014 election. We certainly hope to build off of that in 2016. It's important to keep the majorities in the state assembly, the state senate, to keep our members of Congress, and to make sure that Ron Johnson is sent back for a second term to represent the men and women of the great state of Wisconsin. I'm also going to talk about how proven results, how when you think with this crowd, we probably more than any state in the country have enacted in a relatively difficult state some of the most comprehensive, common sense conservative Republicans in the country, from taking on the big government special interest and putting the power back in the hands of the hardworking taxpayers, to reducing the tax burden by some $2 billion, most impressively on property taxes, to changing things that improved our economy and our fiscal standing, to a whole assortment of other issues we're going to be talking about. And I'll be mentioning briefly the budget, certainly hoping that they continue to support those men and women serving in the State Assembly and the State Senate as we move forward with a budget that hopefully for the 5th and the 6th year in a row will continue to lower property taxes, that will make significant investments in education and higher ed and worker training, that will help people transition from government dependence to true independence through work. And we'll be talking about that, and certainly encouraging people to get ready to be energized for 2016 when we send Ron Johnson and the rest of the ticket on to victory. So you get the first one.
Governor Walker, a few months ago you wanted to merge with a week ago talking about pulling back on that. Now that you're saying reform the agency, get rid of the loans, which is part of your vision of the agency. Has your vision failed for what it can be?
No, the broader vision is actually very successful. If you look at all the audits, you look at reaction from regional economic development efforts, you look at you look at Chamber of Commerce and others out there, overwhelmingly they'll say the work with frontline staff has been very aggressive, that they feel it's a partnership between regional, local, municipal, and state economic development efforts. So in that regard, it's been highly effective. That's something that's been consistent, I think, throughout all the discussions. The challenge is the overall role, whether it's appropriate to do it through one entity, whether it was doing it through a merged entity through the Housing and Economic Development Authority and the Economic Development Corporation. Clearly at our last joint board meeting, there was enough concerns raised about that from members and stakeholders that we figured, talking to lawmakers, it was right to pull back on that. And in terms of the area of the most concern, going back to the Department of Commerce from years ago and past administrations, and even some of the discussions we had of late, it was looking at loans, figuring there are ample ways in working with the private sector, with financial institutions, be they banks, credit unions or otherwise, and now with startups, looking at the investment the state has made. It's ministered through the Department of Administration in terms of venture capital funds. There are viable alternatives, and this allows WDC to be focused on working on promotions and providing incentives that are based across the board, not just on specific loans.
How much are your concerns about the loan program related to a 2011 loan made to Building Committee Inc. and William Minahan?
Our issues are related overall to the audit, not to anything specific.
Do you have any concerns about that loan?
I haven't looked at it. It's one of those where in the end we have a very clear process that has to be based on performance, just like any loans, just like the many we looked at over the last few years that were made by Governor Doyle's administration and others out there.
Are you going to support this idea of paying for the voucher program through the school?
What's that?
What do you think of this idea of paying for the expanding the choice program using the option?
Again, we're working. I'll be meeting on Wednesday again with not only my normal legislative leader meeting, but we'll be including the co-chairs and other members of the Finance Committee to reach out and talk about a number of things. As I've talked about before, even days after our budget came out, I was optimistic that the property tax relief would stay intact, but many other things were on the table. And for us, as you've heard me say in the last month or two, I thought K through 12 funding was imperative at the top of the list, and I believe we'll get to a point by the budget I passed that we'll have K through 12 funding fully intact. There may be some other adjustments we're able to make to the University of Wisconsin system, and then in terms of things like the choice expansion, we're open to working with the legislature in a variety of different ways, but I don't know that we're set in any one particular. We talked to Dan Ahrens, the vice chair of the board. For us, it's one of those just in reaction to this. We think it's, what we heard back from board members was the concern about whether the timing is right in terms of a consolidation. But right now, it's prime time. We've got a couple weeks left to make decisions with the legislature. We've been working with legislative leaders, and we'll continue to work with them on this and other issues.
Governor Walker, last week the Joint Finance Committee took the Eau Claire's Confluence project out of the budget. What's your take on that?
Again, that's one where we put it in. We thought it was a priority, and if it's going to stay in, or come back, it's going to have to be something the legislature is going to have to work on. Thanks.
Last question.